I would be truly grateful if you subscribe to the channel. Your support will help this family grow, so let's move forward together. Her so-called best friend humiliated me at my own dinner table. She could do so much better than you. I dismantled him in front of everyone, piece by piece. She snapped, apologized to him, or we're done. I gave her a quiet smile, said nothing, but weeks later, when she came crawling back, she discovered what done truly means. I'm Jack Thompson, 35, a lawyer in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. My days are spent navigating the ugliest sides of human behavior, divorce battles, fraud cases, contracts torn apart by greed. For 3 years, coming home to Anna, 29, was like stepping into sunlight after a storm. She was a paralegal at a rival firm, sharp as a blade, with a burning drive to get into law school and carve out her own legacy. I loved her ambition, her fire. We weren't just a couple, we were partners building something real in a 3-bedroom row house I'd spent years restoring, sandblasted brick walls, oak floors I refinished myself, a backyard with a cedar pergola I built over 2 summers. It wasn't just a house, it was our future. I wasn't footing the bill for a girlfriend, I was investing in the woman I planned to marry. But there was always a faint crackle of interference, a subtle wrongness in the air. Its name was Leo, Anna's college best friend. A graphic designer who fancied himself a tortured artist, Leo treated a steady job like it was a prison sentence. He scraped by designing logos for dive bars and menus for food trucks, barely covering rent on a shoebox apartment in Fishtown. To Anna, he was her rock, her platonic soulmate, who saved her after her ex, Alex, a flaky musician, broke her heart. To me, he was a smug leech who made it his mission to chip away at our relationship. He was slick, never overt enough to call out directly. His weapons were sly jabs, backhanded compliments, little barbs wrapped in nostalgia. He'd bring up Alex constantly, painting him as some free-spirited rebel. If I took Anna to a resort in Cancun, Leo would sigh about a magical road trip they'd taken to the Poconos. "Remember that, Anna," he'd say, voice heavy with meaning. "Real moments like that, you can't manufacture them. You need someone who gets your wild side." The subtext was clear, I was the dull, predictable suit, he was the keeper of her untamed past. Anna soaked it up, blind to his manipulation. If I suggested Leo's friendship felt disrespectful, she'd bristle, that's just Leo being Leo. He was there when Alex crushed me. He's like my brother, Jack. I'm a patient man, my job demands it. You don't win cases by reacting to the first provocation. You wait, let the other side overplay their hand, let them weave the noose they'll hang themselves with. I waited for Leo to give me the noose. The opportunity came a month ago. I'd just won the biggest case of my career, a grueling 6-month battle defending a family-owned brewery against a corporate giant trying to bury them in lawsuits. Countless late nights, weekends lost to depositions and discovery, but we prevailed, a massive win for my firm and my reputation. To celebrate, I hosted a dinner party at our house, my closest friends, who'd barely seen me in months, and Anna's crew, including Leo, because I was still trying to play nice. The evening was perfect, warm September air, a table full of laughter, a 2016 Barolo I'd been saving for a milestone. For the first time in ages, I felt unburdened, like I could exhale. Leo, of course, was in his element, guzzling my wine and acting like he belonged at the head of the table. After a few glasses, he decided it was time for his show. He launched into a pretentious monologue about a gallery opening he'd attended, which was really a setup to pontificate about creatives versus corporate types. "It's a whole different mindset," he said, staring right at me. "Some people live for passion, for art. Others, they're just built for stability." He lingered on stability like it was an insult, sipping my wine with a smirk. My friends, lawyers, a couple of business owners, a surgeon, shot him glares that could have melted glass. I gave a thin smile, stayed silent, didn't take the bait. He pushed further. Turning to Anna with a performative frown, he said, "I just want you to be happy, Anna. Jack's solid, dependable, a real provider." He spat provider like it was a curse. Then he locked eyes with me, his smirk widening. "But let's be real, she could do so much better than you." There it was, the noose. The room froze. Silverware stopped clinking. My friends looked ready to vault over the table. Anna stared at her plate, cheeks flushing, not from anger at Leo, but from embarrassment that he'd caused a scene. That moment crystallized everything. The patient lawyer checked out, the man who'd just been insulted in his own home, in front of his people, by a freeloader drinking his wine, took the stand. I set my fork and knife down deliberately, clasped my hands, and fixed my gaze on Leo. The genial host was gone, the litigator was in the courtroom. "That's a strong assertion, Leo," I said, voice low and steady. "I'm curious about your logic. In your expert opinion, what qualifies as a better man for Anna? Be specific. Define the standard. Leo faltered. He'd been ready for a shouting match, not a surgical cross-examination. He mumbled, someone more, her vibe. A creative spirit. Someone who really gets her soul. I see, I said, nodding slowly. So, the key criterion is creative spirit. Fascinating. And you consider yourself the benchmark for this, correct? I know her better than anyone, he said, trying to puff himself up. Excellent, I said, voice still calm. Let's test that. Let's move beyond vague vibes and look at tangible investment. Anna's in her second year at Penn Law, a top-tier program with a six-figure price tag. I'm covering every penny, an investment not just in her education but in our shared future. So, Leo, as the gold standard of what's better for Anna, what have you contributed to her future lately, aside from your unsolicited critiques of me? Leo's face drained of color. Anna whispered, Jack, stop it, her eyes wide with panic. I raised a hand, gaze still locked on Leo. I'm not finished. Let's talk about the car she drives, a reliable Audi Q5 that gets her to classes and her part-time job safely. I bought it, paid in full. You've got a car too, don't you, Leo? That beat-up Miata that's always in the shop. Anna's bailed you out for repairs at least 3 times in the past 6 months, hasn't she? Using money from our joint account, which, for clarity, I alone fund. So, I'm not only investing in Anna's future, I'm subsidizing your midlife crisis convertible. You're welcome. One of my friends, a defense attorney named Mark, choked on his wine, masking a laugh. Leo looked like he'd been punched. And one more thing, I said, leaning forward, voice dropping to a near whisper. This house, the roof over Anna's head, the restored floors, the kitchen we remodeled together, I own it. I pay the mortgage, fix the leaks, maintain it. You, Leo, have been so behind on rent that Anna's covered your share multiple times, again with my money. So, let's clarify your argument for the table. You're saying a man who provides a stable home, a safe car, and a fully funded Ivy League education is a lesser choice for Anna. And a better man, by your metric, is someone who leeches off her resources, mooches off her kindness, and spends years trying to undermine her relationship out of what can only be described as a sad, obsessive fixation. Is that an accurate summary of your position, Leo? I leaned back, case closed. The room was a graveyard, utter silence. Leo sat there, a witness shredded on the stand, humiliated, speechless. My friend stared at him with undisguised disgust. Anna's face was a battlefield of emotions, shock, embarrassment, but what emerged wasn't relief or support for me. It was rage, pure and searing, directed at me. She stood, chair screeching against the hardwood. I can't believe you just did that. You humiliated him in front of everyone. He humiliated himself, Anna, I said, voice heavy with exhaustion. I just laid out the facts. Apologize to him, she demanded, trembling with anger. Right now. Apologize to my best friend, or we're done. The ultimatum, the final nail. She stood beside a man exposed as a manipulative freeloader, defending him, choosing him. The love I'd felt for her didn't just fade, it was obliterated. I saw her with brutal clarity. I didn't shout, didn't argue. I gave her a small, weary smile, the kind that signals an ending, picked up my wine glass, and walked to the kitchen, leaving her standing alone in the wreckage of the dining room. The trial was over. The verdict was delivered. The fallout, Anna and Leo stormed out together, a whirlwind of drama. She moved into his cramped apartment that night, a choice born of her fury and his public shaming. She thought she'd laid down the law, expecting me to chase her, grovel, beg to fix what I'd ruined. She didn't realize I'd taken her at her word. We were done. For 2 weeks, I went silent, ignored her calls, her texts that shifted from angry rants to confusion to desperate pleas, ignored the mutual friends she sent as emissaries. I was invisible, a ghost in her world. Instead of running after her, I got to work. The house, our home, felt like a crime scene, tainted by her betrayal. I spent a weekend methodically packing her belongings, clothes, books, the ceramic mugs she'd bought at a flea market, into boxes. It wasn't rage, it was a ritual, closing the estate of a dead relationship. I stacked the boxes in the guest room, changed every lock, reset the alarm system codes. Then I made 2 calls, cold but necessary, the natural consequences of her choice. To the dean of admissions at Penn Law, where I'd leveraged alumni connections to secure her a partial scholarship I supplemented privately. Due to an irreversible change in my personal situation, the private funding for Anna's tuition is terminated, effective immediately. To the managing partner at my firm, where I'd pulled every string to get Anna a prestigious summer internship, a career-launching opportunity, a serious personal conflict of interest has emerged. The internship offer for Anna must be withdrawn. I took no pleasure in this. My support, tuition, car, home, was rooted in our partnership, a contract she'd shattered. She couldn't expect to keep the benefits after torching the foundation. 2 weeks after the dinner, she showed up at the house. I watched her on the doorbell camera, trying her old key, frustration turning to fury when it didn't work. She rang the bell repeatedly. I opened the door, keeping the security chain latched. She looked like she'd aged a decade, her fire dimmed, replaced by a haggard desperation. Living with Leo, the broke artist, had clearly been a brutal wake-up call. "Jack, we need to talk," she said, voice trembling. "No, Anna, we don't," I replied, calm and final. "You made your decision. The case is closed. You can't throw away 3 years over one argument," she pleaded, tears welling. I was upset. I wasn't thinking straight. "It wasn't an argument," I said. "It was a revelation. You had a choice between your partner and the man who's been sabotaging us for years. You chose him. You demanded I apologize to him. That's not something I can unsee." Her panic grew as she realized I wasn't bending. "But our plans," she stammered. "Law school, the internship, everything we worked for." "Yes, about that," I said, pausing to let the weight settle. "Your final semester's tuition is due next week, right? I trust you and Leo have a plan, because my investment in our future ended when you issued your ultimatum." Her face collapsed, pale as ash. "And the internship," I continued, relentless but not cruel. "That's been revoked. My firm doesn't tolerate conflicts of interest." She staggered back, hand covering her mouth. The internship was her golden key, a shot at a top firm, a future she'd banked on. It was slipping through her fingers. "You can't do this," she whispered, voice breaking. "Jack, please, you can't." "It's done," I said. "Actions have consequences. You gave me a choice, apologize or we're over. I chose over. Now you get to live with that. Go ask Leo, the man so much better than me, to cover your $50,000 tuition and rebuild the career you threw away." I shut the door on her tear-soaked face. No joy, no sorrow, just a quiet finality. The trial was over. The consequences, Anna's world crumbled. She had to drop out of law school, months from her degree, her dream in tatters. She's still living with Leo in his dingy apartment, a pressure cooker of mutual resentment. She blames him for costing her everything. He's trapped with a bitter, broken version of the woman he coveted, unable to afford her expectations or her anger. He won the prize, but it's a poison one. This wasn't about vengeance, it was about self-respect. A relationship is a contract, built on trust and loyalty. Anna breached the core terms, siding with a parasite who disrespected me in my own home. My actions weren't punishment, they were enforcement of the contract's terms. She wanted to know what done meant. Now she knows. The support vanishes, the investment stops, and the architect walks away, leaving her in the ruins of the life she helped demolish.